Hi there, this is a 5-minute English with Bay. Welcome back to episode 5. This week, I want to talk about some basics. I mean, literally basics. The reason I want to talk about basics because I've been watching a lot of English learning videos and they all talk about words, expressions, phrasal verbs, and how to use some fancy sentences to talk about your ideas, to be more confident to talk about things that you want to, and then even have videos about how to learn English in a week or how to speak fluently in a week. Everyone seems to be in a very I gotta go mood, but not many of them actually mentioned basics. So that's why I want to do it. I want to say that before you take a step to run, it is important to take a step to know how to walk. And that's why we're going to talk about basics in this week. What are the basics? Well, for me, I think basics mean grammar. Of course, everybody knows grammar is important. Basic grammar that a lot of people tend to ignore is very important. So what is basic grammar? Well, let's say basic grammar is subject-verb agreement. Well, you're going to ask, what is a subject-verb agreement? Well, think about when you have a sentence, what is the basic structure of the sentence? You're going to have a subject and you're going to have a verb. And subject and verb, they have to, shake their hands and say, yeah, I agree on this sentence. And that is subject and verb agreement. And why is this important? Let me cover this topic in a few minutes. Back to our subject first. So what can be subject? That is your work to figure out what can be subject. Well, subject can be nouns. So what are nouns? Things, names, places. Those are nouns you can use for your basic subject. And what are verbs? Verbs are actions. Well, you move. That's how I teach my students. You move, you have the actions, and that is a verb. When you have this subject, the subject gives order to say, hey, you go do things. And the verb is like, oh, got you. I got the order and I'm going to do it. And that is the relationship between subject and a verb. When you think about subject and verb, you can't just random grab a subject and put a verb here and say, well, here you go. You two can't talk to each other. They have to agree on something. And what is the something? That is the agreement we always talk about. When it is a simple present, you have to think about, is your subject singular form or plural form? If your subject is a singular form, then your verb has to change a little bit because your verb says, I don't think you right now actually fits my action. So you're going to have to change the subject. No, I am the one who gave the order. So I don't change, you do. The verb does have to change. So the verb see, wow, you're singular, third person, only one. So I have to put an S in the end of the verb to match you. So now we can go together to a nice party. So that is subject-verb agreement. The verb has always to change to match the subject. And that's how we learn the basic grammar structure. If you have simple past, of course, you're going to change the verb. And if you have a simple future, you're going to change the verb. And when you have more complicated grammar about verb tense, and you're going to change more and more and more. But let's just stick to our basic grammars today. Let's think about a sentence. I'm just going to give you a very simple example. I go home. She goes home. Right? You see the difference? I, very special subject. I'm always special. So when I say I go home, even I is a very singular form, but it's because it's very special. You don't have to change the verb. It has the base verb go. Don't change for this simple present. But she goes home. She goes home, right? Go has to change to goes, right? She goes home because she is not that special. Let's say that. And she is in a singular form, and the she does not have to change. Who's going to change? The verb. You would say, well, I of course know those basic grammar points. Why are you still repeating this? I want to say every sentence start with very basic grammar. It doesn't matter if you have super long sentence, you still need to go find the subject and find the verb and understand the whole sentence. So let's try this. I go home. Okay, so I go home. You think it's too simple? That's fine. And think about when. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I go home. Well, don't you feel a little bit lonely if just you? Well, you can say, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I go home with Lucy. Who is this Lucy? I'm curious. So you would say, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I go home with Lucy, who is my best friend in my class. I wonder, how does this girl look like? So you can say, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I go home with Lucy, who is my best friend in the class with beautiful brown hair and beautiful eyes. Isn't that a long sentence? It is. And you can keep going on and on and on and on, have a super long sentence if you want to. But if we come back, the basic meaning of this long sentence is I go home. And that is the basic grammar. So for you, if you ever want to improve your speaking, your listening, your reading, your writing, you gotta understand the basic grammar structure, subject, verb, agreement. As soon as you understand this grammar, it really will help you elevate the level of English. Why do I say that? Because it doesn't matter how difficult or how long the sentence is, I'm just gonna go find subject, verb. Now I understand what you're trying to say. Same thing with the listening. When you practice listening at home, try to look for subject, verb. What's the basic structure? It's like building your house. You gotta have a structure first, and then you can put a little bit this here, a little bit that here, have a nice roof, have a nice wall, maybe a backyard. And once you have the structure, and then you can put nice furniture inside. That is why I'm trying to say that basic grammar is very important, because that's your foundation of getting to another level of your English learning. If you are not familiar with the basic grammar structure or basic grammar rules, or you don't want to learn basic grammar rules just because you think it's too simple for you, you have to ask yourself, is that too simple or it's just too boring? Because being simple and being boring, they're totally different. Being simple means you mastered it. Did you? And being boring means, well, I want to learn something fancy than this. That is totally different definition. So what is your attitude towards basic grammar? Let me know. So I hope you liked this episode, and if you want, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and leave your comment. Let me know what you want to know for next episode, and stay tuned. See ya.